Cryptocurrently podcast. This for those of you joining us on YouTube. This is my daily podcast on Libsyn, SoundCloud, iHeart, iTunes. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Please like it, please follow it, and share it. All right, I'm trying to expand my digital presence here. It's Saturday and the markets are still trading. Now, earlier in the week, I talked about a coin called Pack Coin. I like this a lot for a number of reasons, and not just because it was up huge earlier and right now it's all the way down to only being up 176%. But going forward into the future, if you haven't heard yet, Pack Coin has they have 3 trillion, over 3 trillion coins out there. And in March, that number is going to be reduced to 3 billion. So from 3,000 billion to 3 billion. All right. Now that's going to make that move itself won't affect the price. What it will do, however, is make any sort of volatility in that market way more pronounced. All right. So right now, I think is, if you're going to speculate in these markets, this is a good one to put a little speculation money on, I believe. Now, obviously there's other performers in the market, and then there's ICOs, and there seems to be a bit of confusion going on about ICOs. A lot of these ICOs that are being advertised on Facebook, and that if you've done any research, you can see what's coming out, what's been out. There's places that you can go and look up when some of these things are going to be hitting the markets and so forth. But if you've done any research whatsoever, you've probably found out pretty quickly that some of these ICOs in their disclaimers, they say, look, if you're in the United States, you can't participate in this. Now, this is interesting, okay? So the first thing I'm going to tell you is this. Do some research on that, all right? Because the first thing that popped into my mind as a former trader, okay, as a guy that had to go and get licenses from the federal government in order to trade, there's a few things that I just know, and so when I read something like that, it creates questions for me. So the question number one, when you look at that, is, well, wait a minute, who's telling me that I can't buy into this ICO with a different kind of coin? And most of them take Ethereum, which, by the way, I'm going to be doing probably a whole series on Ethereum here in the foreseeable future. But if I buy Ethereum and I decide that I want to shift that money over somewhere else so that I can get a code that says I have ownership in a certain amount of coins in another place, like, who's telling me when I read that on an ICO, in their papers, it says you can't, if you live in the United States, you can't participate in this. My first question is, well, who's telling me that? Is my government telling me that? Or are you telling me that? Right? That's the first question that pops into my mind is, well, who's telling me this? Who says I can't do this? Does my government say that? Because if my government says that, well, that's a problem. That's a problem because as far as I know, there are no laws telling me that I cannot shift any of my assets whatsoever into something else that there is no laws against, right? Like, for example, this week we saw a cease and desist on BitConnect, right? Okay, well, that's, if a cease and desist comes out from the federal government, which it did, then that's, by law, you have to cease and desist, right? There's a law regarding ceasing and desisting. If somebody wants to buy heroin, black tar heroin, or Colombian marching powder or something like that, well, there's a law against that, right? You can't buy it, you can't sell it, and you cannot be in possession of it. We have a law for that. And as far as I know, there is no law against me purchasing digital coins, right? And if there is, that's a big problem, because now we have the government telling people who were born free what they can and cannot buy outside of, reasonable thing. If you tell me I can't buy cocaine or heroin, well, that's reasonable. If you tell me I can't buy marijuana, I understand that. I may disagree with it, but it's still, I understand that is against the law, that is a mind-altering substance. But if you start telling me that I can't buy a code that says that I have ownership of a coin that, as far as you know, is just a make-believe, it might as well be a Pokemon card, right? It might as well be a Beanie Baby. For all, if you tell me I can't buy something, well, I'm going to have some questions for you. So it begs the question, when you're reading the papers on the ICO, and it says you cannot, if you're in the United States, you cannot participate in this at this level. You can participate it when it gets to the market, right? So wait a minute. So you're telling me I cannot buy it now, but I can buy it when it gets to the market. So that would tell me that the organization, if you will, who is expressing that I cannot participate in this market, is in fact the company that is issuing the ICO. It's not the federal government. Well, and why would that be? I think that's pretty simple. We have very strict laws in the United States regarding securities. Very difficult things to get by. Like if you own a tech company, right? If you want to be publicly traded, like Facebook, for example, Facebook is publicly traded, and there was a time in their history when they were very small, and then they got bigger, and then they filed paperwork with the government. They said, look, we want to put this out into the public so people can invest in this, and they had to get permission, and that process it's very strict. It takes a long time, and it costs a lot of money. Well, now we have this new digital currency, and it's taken the world by storm right now. There's nothing but volatility in this market. So what the federal government right now, what they're doing is they're looking at it going, whoa, okay, slow down, everybody, slow down. These are securities, these are financial instruments, and you cannot sell these things in our marketplace without our blessing. We can't have that because there's all kinds of fraud that can happen and whatnot. So what is it? What is the difference between where if I buy in an ICO, or if I buy it when it's just trading on the various platforms where you can buy and sell it? And the answer is nothing really. So it would be in the company's best interest that is issuing the initial coin, if they tell people, look, we cannot get through the red tape in the United States, so you cannot participate in this if you live in the United States. Fair enough. I totally understand that. I understand why a company would do that, to protect themselves from any sort of, you don't want the federal government of the United States coming down on you. Like if you're a legitimate company, and you want to do some good, and you're trying to, sell your coin to generate some money, and then, hopefully get on the trading markets, you don't want the Fed coming after you. That's just bad business, because you're going to sue. You're going to get sued, and you're going to lose, right? So it's in their best interest that if the United States government came to them and said, look, things didn't go well, everybody lost their money, and furthermore, you had no right to be selling to our people in the first place, it would be in their best interest to be able to walk into court and say, well, look, we had it right here at the top of the page. If you live in the United States, you cannot participate in this. That makes, from a legal standpoint, that makes sense. So I'm not saying that you should go and invest, go put any of your money into ICOs. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm saying if you want to, you should do your research. Go onto YouTube and see what other people have said about this exact same conversation. Ask yourself questions. You can write an email to the CFTC and the SEC and all the different bodies of regulation when it comes to investments, the NFA. There's a number of them out there, and you can write to them and say, hey, look, is there a law against me doing what I want to do with my digital assets, right? As far as it applies to purchasing other digital assets. If you're doing something illegal, then yeah, you deserve whatever's coming to you. But buying cryptocurrencies, I can't imagine could ever be construed as being illegal. Anyways, do your own research, look well into it. As the week goes on, there will not be a show tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday, but going through next week, I'm going to hit on some other coins. Please help me to expand my digital presence. Click like, click share, check out my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the podcast. The link will be down there, the link below. Eventually, I'll get to the place where I will be able to advertise. People will pay me money to talk to you about, the mattresses they're selling, or their steaks, or their, chocolate-covered strawberries, or whatever. And when that happens, you'll know that you were a part of getting me to that point. So that's it for now. And I will talk to you Monday morning.